Welcome to the 2019 Digitization Conference. My name is Deron Burba, and I'm the Smithsonian's Chief Information Officer. This conference actually began in 2006 as an in-house event, and it's held every 2 years to showcase digitization work around the Smithsonian. Over the years, it's expanded to include external speakers and grew from a 1 to 2 day event. In 2017, we actually opened the event up to the public, and now it draws people from Smithsonian, local DC cultural and federal organizations, technology companies, educators, and further afield, individuals from international cultural institutions. This year, we also separated the exhibits from the conference, and that was open to the public and was held yesterday. And from what I understand, it was quite a success with lots of people turning out. And hopefully many of you were able to see some of the pre-conference exhibits and learn about some of the projects and initiatives. And I'm going to share just a few kind of to start things off this morning. So first is an update on one of our largest, kind of most ambitious digitization projects, certainly in terms of numbers, and that is the digitization of the herbarium at the Natural History Museum. So far, we've digitized over 2.3 million of the specimens and continue at a rate of approximately 3,400 a day. This vast collection of specimen images is an ideal data set for research in our data science lab. And the Smithsonian Data Science Lab is using this data set to investigate large-scale patterns of biodiversity with computer visions. And one of their recent interesting things they've done is actually create a pipeline using a neural network developed for biomedical image segmentation to remove all the non-plant material from the images. This ensures that the deep learning models are basically able to be used for training by themselves without any noise from stamps, barcodes, or any other information needed for the training. And on the left are the images from the actual digitization. And then in the center, they're high-resolution masks with all the non-plant information removed. And this is important not only because it helps us train the neural networks more efficiently using fewer images, but it also enables us to use these images for approximately 3,000 herbaria around the world, regardless of the information that might be contained on their mounts. Finally, on the right is a confusion matrix. It's a common output for deep learning. Data Science Lab postdoc Alex White is building a deep learning model to explore global patterns in fern diversity. And the x-axis of this, which you can't read, is actually the predicted genus, and the y-axis is the actual. The dark diagonal line in the center indicates that the model is very accurate in identifying the ferns. And the boxes where we see some kind of outliers is areas that it's having more difficulty in identifying the correct genus, but that is also the species that are very difficult for humans to identify. A couple of years ago, our Digitization Program Office captured Neil Armstrong's spacesuit as part of a conservation effort. It was needed before returning the spacesuit to public display. And this past July 20th was the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. And as part of that 50th anniversary celebration, this single model of the spacesuit was used on a bunch of different platforms by Time Magazine, Smithsonian Channel, as well as others, including ours. It actually also, during the capture, they also CT scanned the suit to be able to get the internals. And this model was also used to create 15 replicas. These are one-for-one scale replicas for a project that our Air and Space Museum did called Apollo at the Park, which displayed these 15 replicas in major league ballparks around the country, including in nearby Nats Park. With the regular season ending, these 13 models are being donated to museums and cultural organizations around the country, and the National Air and Space Museum will retain 2 of the statues for its permanent collection. This is a great example of where 3D can be used in all sorts of ways, including education and entertainment. This past spring, we launched a new 3D viewer we are calling Voyager. The viewer is part of a larger effort of building a pipeline to scale up our 3D digitization that I'll talk more about in just a minute. But Voyager has several components, one of which is story, and it's used for authoring experiences, creating annotations such as the ones you see here with the different bones identified on the T-Rex. There's also an Explorer, which is the actual viewer, web-based viewer that is used for people to access it online. And also there's a Voyager Mini, which is kind of a bare bones viewer that's really optimized just for size and loading speed for the browser. So the vision for the 3D pipeline is to have several components, one of which is an asset management system. We're calling that PackRat. That supports managing 3D data from the point of capture through the creation of 3D experiences. In addition to PackRat, we have Cook. Cook is an orchestration tool. It's designed to automate post-processing steps, invoking various tools used to post-process models. And of course, Voyager, which is used for authoring and the viewing components. The code for all three of these are available on GitHub. Voyager is the most mature, followed by Cook. PackRat at this point is really a prototype. The URLs are here, but you can easily find them just by searching Smithsonian, GitHub, and then the name PackRat, Cook, Voyager. So those are a couple things I think were projects that are underway that are relevant to some of the themes of the conference. And next up, I'd like to introduce the Provost and Undersecretary for Museums, Education, and Research, John Davis. John is responsible for all of the national museums, the scholarly and scientific research centers, and all programs in education access. He's a historian specializing in art and architecture in the United States. He served for 25 years on the faculty of Smith College, teaching in the fields of art history and American studies. Prior to his Smith College appointment, he taught at Princeton and Columbia universities, and just before joining the Smithsonian, he had moved to Paris as the first executive director for the Terra Foundation for American Art's European Center and Library, where he directed the foundation's global academic programs and giving in Europe, Asia, and Australia. Please join me in welcoming John Davis.
Thank you, Deron. Welcome to the Smithsonian Digitization Conference. It's really exciting to see a full auditorium, and I know we have other colleagues and collaborators on the way. This gathering for all things digital at the Smithsonian is particularly timely and relevant, I think, as we, as an institution, prepare to publicly announce next February our open access initiative. And that's what I want to use my time here to talk about a bit. The drive toward open access, as you all know, is not new, especially in the public sector. But our support for open access at the Smithsonian will have a huge impact given the scale and the multidisciplinary scope of our collections. We anticipate next February, in the first initial release, of having 3.3 million 2D and 3D images ready to move into the public domain. This will be the largest and the most interdisciplinary collection of objects to date in any open access initiative of a cultural institution globally. Along with our announcement, the Smithsonian will also launch a variety of platforms to make our collection media, our collections data, and our research data available for all educational and research endeavors for creative reuse, computational analysis, and innovative explorations, the variety of which we are only beginning to imagine. The Open Access Initiative is also a foundational step in our commitment as an institution to make good on our strategic plan's goal of reaching 1 billion people annually around the world in a digital-first strategy. So with this increased traffic and new partnerships, the Smithsonian is also going to be very well placed to deliver on one of Secretary Bunch's commitments that he has already expressed in his first 100 days in office, and that is to move us toward a virtual Smithsonian and an ability to do even a better job of sharing our collections beyond the mall, beyond the 29 million visitors who actually walk through our doors every year. Over 80 Smithsonian staff members, many in this room, have been assembled into 8 project teams that are currently engaged in developing policy guidelines, strategy, and technical specifications to realize this ambitious open access project. Let me just give you a couple of examples. The Launch Tech implementation team is working on the open access portal and on a new open access collection site which will be on si.edu. The communications and marketing team is developing strategies to explain our strategy and highlight our mission and our goals, both to internal audiences, very important, but also for our vast external audiences. My office, the Office of the Provost, with Effie Capsalis leading the effort, has also put together a speaker series that some of you have already experienced across a range of open access disciplines. Earlier this year, we heard from Simon Tanner of King's College about open access history and practice within the cultural sector. We also heard from Smithsonian Regent Michael Govan, who is the director of the LA County Museum of Art, one of the US museums that was a very early adopter of open access. And he talked to Smithsonian Museum and Research Center directors about what they had learned in LA as they went through that process. And over the coming months, we will be presenting more speakers on such topics as open business and open education. I think you can see that open access is already helping the Smithsonian involve people really nationally and worldwide in creating new knowledge structures. We saw this promise actually last April when the National Portrait Gallery, as part of its exhibition that is still up if you haven't seen it, called Votes for Women, where we did a wiki edit-a-thon. Participants replaced Sojourner Truth's lead image in the Wiki Commons, which was a very low quality, grainy image, with a high resolution image from the collections of the National Portrait Gallery. Since April, this new image has been viewed over 200,000 times, and it now appears in articles in 11 different language Wikipedias. That's just one of our 157 million collection objects that we ultimately hope to share. In July, I think as many of you know, we had another edit-a-thon, this one revolving around the National Museum of American History's All Work and No Pay exhibit. We added about 9,000 words, 9,002 to be exact, to Wikipedia articles about women and labor, and we created 7 new articles. The live stream of that edit-a-thon has been viewed nearly 1,000 times. And finally, next Tuesday, more on the tech and science side, we will conduct a 3rd edit-a-thon focusing on women in computer science and mathematics. Open access, I know I don't have to tell everyone in this room, is the future, and we are committed to being a part of it and being a leader, and I really want to thank everyone who has been contributing to that effort. I also want to take a moment to thank our sponsors and collaborators for this conference: Autodesk, Microsoft, Cleanbox Technology, Amazon Web Services, Bright Machines, Creekside Digital, Digital Transitions, Faro, and Pictura. Many thanks to those partners, and special thanks to Deron, to Diane Zorich, and the Smithsonian's Digital Program Office team. Have a great day, and I think now I'm going to turn things over to Diane. Thanks a lot.
Good morning. I'm Diane Zorich. I'm director of the Digitization Program Office. Welcome to the Smithsonian's 6th and largest digitization conference to date. I'd like to thank John Davis and Darren Burba for their welcomes and for setting the stage so nicely about how the Smithsonian is engaging and wants to engage with our audiences going forward. An event such as this is impossible without a number of dedicated individuals. from the Secretary's office to the Office of the Chief Information Officer, DPO, has had unbridled support in presenting this conference, so I thank them in particular. Before we begin, I have been tasked with conveying some really important information to you. The restrooms are outside this area to your right. We do have Wi-Fi in this auditorium. Should you wish to participate in any of the back channel conversations, there is the login information online, but if you can't remember it, don't worry because, we seem to be going forward here. No, we're okay. It's on the back of your program, this information as well. Please, if you do use any back channel communications, use the hashtag SIDigi2019 and spell it just as you see it here with an uppercase S, I, and D. That way screen readers will pronounce it correctly for those who are visually impaired and relying upon them. Lunch will be on your own. You'll have an hour and a half. There are various lunch options in the area. They are listed also on the back of your program. We hope you will come back within an hour and 25 minutes so that the panel right after lunch can get moving on time. We will have several breaks during the day. We will ask you not to go too far afield. I know it'll be tempting to go into the galleries, but the breaks are only 10 minutes. So at 8 minutes in, you will hear over a boombox, I believe, some chimes. When you hear those chimes, I hope you turn on your best Pavlovian response and saunter back in to the auditorium so that the panels after breaks can get started on time. One program update for tomorrow. Dr. Safia Noble, who is our keynote, cannot stay for the keynote panel. So what we've done is we've switched the times around on that. We will switch the Q&A immediately after her talk because she would like to be able to answer your questions. And then the keynote and response panel will follow that, unlike what's going to happen today. So the keynote and response panel tomorrow will be at 9:55. We have changed that on the website program, but obviously didn't have time to change it in the print program. So if you're relying on the print program, please amend that to 9:55 tomorrow. Also, we did not identify the 3 keynote in response attendees and participants, and they are identified here. Dr. Rebecca Dekow from the Smithsonian's Data Sciences Lab, Dr. Peter Leonard from the Yale Digital Humanities Lab, and Ms. Latoya Peterson from Glow Up Games. Okay. This conference is organized by the office that I have the honor of leading, the Digitization Program Office, because that's a mouthful. We call ourselves DPO. DPO works with museums around the institution, but we also work with external technology partners, researchers, and educators to digitize Smithsonian collections. In fact, our mandate is to increase the quality, quantity, and impact of Smithsonian digitized collections. Our vision, as it were, is to enable discovery through digitization. But my elevator pitch is always that we create the digital building blocks that enable possibility in research, learning, innovation, and creative pursuits of all kinds. We do this through 3 main programs. Our policy and analysis program analyzes and compiles information on digitization across the institution. Our mass digitization program uses this information to identify and digitize collections that are amenable to mass digitization processes, which when you have 155, 157 million objects, you have to think differently about how you digitize them. So mass digitization uses industrialized workflows and processes to do that. And finally, our 3D program, which Deron has talked about already, but which is undergoing the development of a whole new infrastructure that will enable us to move from capturing singular objects at a very expensive cost to hopefully automating that capture and being able to do entire collections and make them available in 3D. And all of this is possible because of a small but stellar team of individuals who are also the people behind the organization of this conference. And that is the Digitization Program Office. Thank you. This team has been working on this event for many months with a sense of humor that you can see on display here, and with the professionalism, melding their minds with their contact lists to identify the speakers in the program that you have before you today. And a special recognition goes to Jessica Warner, who I see standing right there now, who she is our our senior program manager for policy and analysis, and about a year out from these conferences, she starts reminding us to get some planning meetings on our calendar, and then every day since she gets us to this day, so thank you, Jessica. I also want to thank the entire Digitization Program Office, and please join me in giving them another round of applause.